He punched me in the face. So at that point, I'm on the floor, knocked out. Like, he knocked me out cold. The next thing I know, or the next thing I can remember, someone is picking me up. Actually got HIV, and I understand the curiosity. It's been about 24 hours since the woman that raised me, the girl that I've loved the most, my grandmother, passed away. My grandmother and I, the relationship that I personally had with my grandmother was strained by pain and her inability to talk about it. And it wasn't until yesterday that I realized that she just wasn't able to talk about it. So on this day, I want to honor my grandmother by sharing my story and not keeping silent like she felt she was forced to do. People want to know how I actually got HIV. And I understand the curiosity. However, I wasn't ready to talk about it. I didn't know how to talk about it because I still hadn't processed what actually happened to me. On the night of March 12th, let's actually back up a little bit. The day before I was supposed to go on a date, I wanted to get tested first. I don't know why. I just felt like I wanted to get tested first. That's what I wanted to do. So I went to the clinic, and it took longer than expected. And so by the time that I was out of the clinic, my date was like that he couldn't do it because he wanted to have like an earlier dinner, an earlier night. So for us to just reschedule for the next day. And I said, okay. And I was also like an hour and a half late to dinner the next day anyway. We rescheduled for Tuesday, and that's how I just knew it was fate, it was destiny, it was something that was meant to happen, it was God's will. Because had I gone out to dinner that night, I wouldn't have met him. But who knows what would have happened. We go to dinner. At this point, I'm really trying not to drink. I explained to him that I'm not drinking any hard liquor, but I'm down to have wine. I've never really had wine before. I only did like tequila and Hennessy. And so I didn't realize that wine could get you as messed up, if not more. He got me a bottle of the finest wine that they had at Nobu. A bottle. I didn't recognize the red flags, trust me, I didn't. I thought he was just being generous. I guess everything is going okay. At this point, I'm still pretty violent when I get drunk. I wasn't a happy drunk for a very long time, especially towards men. My anger was always geared towards men for the most part. As we're leaving the restaurant, I'm already in and out of consciousness, so I'm not sure what's actually happening or how far I walk to get to the hotel. I do know that there's a bar downstairs and like in the lobby, and I get like a drink at the lobby as well, maybe two. It's embarrassing. And I'm not even gonna get into it, it's in my other video, but I had started working out and I started taking pre-workout and it was not sitting well. I'm like very lactose intolerant. If you know, you know. It just did not sit well. And he got mad. And so he kicks me out of the room. He's like, I can't deal with this. Like, this is not what I signed up for. He kicks me out of the hotel room and doesn't get me an Uber. I don't know if I even let him get me an Uber. Like, I really don't know. But it doesn't matter if I let him or not. He should have done it. Gotten me a cab, made sure that I got in it. I was very inebriated. I had no idea where I was. I begin to walk, I guess, and I'm not sure how far I walk. I don't know what happens, but I do know that I'm being followed. Like I said, I am very violent when it comes to men, especially when I'm drunk. Apparently I was being recorded. And I say apparently because like I remember a little bit of that, but not the whole thing. This guy crosses the street and he has like a phone in my face, and I guess he's trying to like really catch me like out here like slipping. I push his phone off, like he's holding it like this, and I like push it down and it falls. He curses me out a little bit, and then he gets it back up and he puts it in my face, and then I spit on him. And then when I spit on him, he punched me in the face. So at that point, I'm on the floor, knocked out. Like, he knocked me out cold. The next thing I know, or the next thing I can remember, someone is picking me up. And at this point, there's a group of people. But someone is picking me up, and he's like, yo, are you okay? Are you good? I just remember his voice. I don't remember much of anything else, but it was Angel. That's not really his name, but that's what he introduced himself as. He picks me up from the ground, and he's like, I'm like stumbling on my steps. He hands me my purse, I guess. I don't know. I really don't remember that part of it. Like I said, he's with his friends. I later find out that these are not his friends. For the most part, these are just people that he does he used to do a podcast with. And by the way, the reason that I know that I was being filmed is because the guy who filmed me, once King Face passed away, and I started sharing my story on Instagram, he DM'd me and threatened to share this video if I didn't do an interview with him. It's crazy. At this point, they're like, how do we get this girl home? The best thing would have been to call me an Uber or a Lyft, but I don't know if they wanted to spend money on me. He told me there was a lot of people that hated him, and for every good reason. Now that I know what I know, he thought that I was a setup. Hey, bro, I don't even know you. Like, I don't even know who you are. I'm King Face. And I'm like, ugh, I don't know that man. Another thing that I want to be very, very clear about that I wasn't in this whole storytelling is that I did not consent to sex. Part of the reason why I was scared to tell you guys, or not ready to tell you guys, is because I wasn't ready to admit to myself that I had been raped. I never consented to sex. And I even wonder, what did sex feel like or look like at that moment? Was I even awake? Was I just a body, just laying there? I didn't consent to this. So when people are like, oh, you should have gotten touched, like, man, shut up. Because I didn't say yes to this. Again, this is all for God's glory at the end of the day, because look at me now. This was intended to be for God's glory. Because yes, this is the result of sin. But God calls all sinners. And he calls us by name. So through this, God will be glorified. I will speak and share the power of my testimony and the power of the grace and love of God. He finally drops me off at home. He calls me a few hours later, and I didn't even know who it was. I pick up the phone and he's like, hey, I just want to make sure that you're okay. And I'm like, huh? Who's this? Yo, it's like, it's Face, it's King Face. And I'm like, oh, I had already forgotten about him. For the few days after that, I was love bombed by him. The weeks after that, I was like entirely love bombed by him. After like 2 weeks of me knowing him, he told me that he loved me. He really played on the strings of my heart very well. My will submitted to his. I guess a part of me fell in love with him, but really I don't know what it was. I was under a spell, I felt like, because I needed to leave him and I couldn't. I literally couldn't. That was the events of the night that I met the person that infected me with HIV. Did I get HIV that night? I'm not sure. I started getting symptoms about 3.5 weeks later. Like, actually it's March, dude. Oh my gosh. I meet him 6 days from today, 5 years ago. I started getting sick March 29th, March 30th. I spent many nights with him after that, and the months that followed subsequently. I felt responsible for him. I felt like maybe I could change him. Maybe I could open him up to like getting on medication, to getting help. But no, his mind was made up, and I was just another pawn to him. It's still hard to really grasp that he never really cared about me, because he played the part so good, so well. But the truth is that he never cared. He never cared. He just cared about himself, feeling like a hero and a villain at the same time. I thought that I would feel like anger. I feel disgust mainly. There is nothing to forgive to that man, because vengeance is not mine, it's of the Lord's. There is much peace in my heart right now. I hope I honored my grandmother today. The truth will be told at some point. And even if it's not, God will always remember. I'm finally here at this place where I'm not afraid to say that Kingface raped me and that I did not consent to sexual relations with him that night. I went into our relationship feeling like I owed him my life. So it was very complex, you see. He knew exactly what he was doing. I wasn't the first person he'd done this to. I'm not saying about lack of consent, but what I am saying is that I'm not the first person that he's manipulated. I'm not the first person that he has deceived. And I wasn't the last, unfortunately. But alas, he won't be doing that anymore. I hope you guys can hear me in this video. Can't really speak. Just been a lot of crying. I thank you for your support. I love you guys. Bye.